What's up guys, this is One, the Media Wit. Welcome back to the channel. It has been quite some time since I've filmed my last video and I apologize because I said I was going to do book reviews but then I didn't. So it's load shedding now. I figured I might as well just film now because I basically work for like an hour after load shedding. That's how much the laptop that I work on, that's how much juice it has in it. So now most of the time I just read when that is done or I take a nap or something. But I thought, this is perfect time to do like a review. So I'm gonna do that now. Also got like new software, still getting the hang of it, trying to add things here and there. So let's get down to it. This is actually a very anticipating review that I wanted to do, because it's one of probably the books that I was mostly anticipated to read for the past 2.5 years, give or take. So I'm going to review that now. So the book that I'm reviewing today, it's called Shōgun by James Clavell. This is a very thick book. It's like 1,125 pages. Stephen King, the stand length. It's set in the 1600s and in feudal Japan. So think of like a Edo period, with people wearing their kimonos. Everyone, well, majority of the population has katanas and swords on themselves. That's pretty much what feudal Japan was. And the reason why I like the story so much is because it's based on like actual people. I'm not too sure on who everyone's counterparts are in real life, but I do know that the main character, he's based on a sailor from England named William Adams. Now, for those of you who don't know, William Adams was a sailor from England, as I said, and he ended up in Japan for like trading purposes, but he didn't know anything about Japan. He didn't know their languages. He was basically going into like foreign territory. He succeeded in the trading, and he eventually learned their languages, he learned their culture, he learned their ways, he ate their food. That's basically how he got through the trading scenario. And then eventually he settled down there, he married there, he was buried over there as well. He has a grave over there. That's kind of the reason why I want to go to Japan, to actually see the grave of William Adams. But the main reason why it's such a big deal is because he was the first non-Asian person to become a samurai in Japan. So it's on the history books. Like I've done the research, and there's a lot of media that's based off of that character. Apart from this, there's a video game called Neo. A lot of you probably have played it. If not, then you're probably not a Souls fan. But then again, that's not Souls like as some people. Anyway, I'm getting off topic over here. Neo is a game that has the same characters. It just mixes it up with Japanese folklore of yokai. So what they did was they took actual history and made it their own. It's the same as what the author done with Shōgun. Now, the Shōgun story, it's slightly different. The characters are you follow mainly 3 characters. The first one is John Blackthorne, who is based on William Adams, as I said. He's a pilot sailor from England. Before he actually learns the Japanese tongue, he speaks English, Latin, and Portuguese. And then there's also a Japanese leader, General Toranaga. They initially enemies because why are you on my soil? And then you also follow Lady Mariko, who is a translator between John Blackthorne and Lord Toranaga. So they obviously spend a lot of time together. You learn more about these characters. There are a few other characters, because of how thick this book is. There are tons of characters. There are a lot of characters. There's a lot of stories involved, and there's a lot of touches on Japanese culture, which I really enjoyed. I was very invested in this year. So as I said, the story, it has to do with John Blackthorne. He gets shipwrecked with all of his men. They kept prisoner. And then Lord Toranaga, he takes John Blackthorne out, wanting to learn his secrets of like the world, and he basically wants to know everything that he knows. And then because he's kind of this close with Lord Toranaga, he scales his way up from a random outsider to a Hatamoto, which is an advisor for the Japanese, and then he eventually becomes a samurai alongside the general. So that's like the main part of the story. Everything else has to do with the fact that there is a civil war looming while this is happening. And you slowly start to notice that when you start to see other characters involved, what their motives are, and what their conflicts are with other characters. And on top of that, not just the civil war, they also touch a lot on like the natural disasters that happen in Japan. Like they cover earthquakes, they cover typhoons. So it's pretty much like the natural disasters, but it doesn't play that much of a big deal. But there was one section where they do mention about the earthquake. They do actually explain an earthquake that happens. My goodness, it was one of the most hectic parts of the story, which I really enjoyed. The themes of the story, the themes are mainly like going to a foreign country, which is like alien to a lot of people. I say the word alien because that's what Wikipedia says. It follows you being the outsider in a foreign country. It follows religion. It has to do with racism and sexism as well, and it also has to do with peace and war that happens within Japan, and not just Japan, also around the world. So there are those heavy themes that are into it, and slowly but surely you start to realize how big of an impact those themes are in a story like this. I gotta say that this book actually took me a lot quicker to finish than I expected it. If you read a chapter a day, it will take you about 2 months. But I started this book on the day after Christmas, and then I finished it on the last day of January. So it was just over a month, and I'm actually surprised that I was able to finish it within that short span of time, because I initially thought I would take longer. But because of how invested I was in the story and how things were actually explained, how the culture was explained, it was very well presented. It's a very well written story, especially since it's the first story that I've ever read from James Clavell. And there's a lot of world building, especially. This was the 1600s. There's a lot of things that happen. And there's a lot of things that they have to build up upon. There are a bit of controversies with the story. I've seen a lot of things on Goodreads. Like the Goodreads books are high, like the reviews of it. I would say that it's like a 4.4 out of 5 overall. But if you look deeper in, then you'll see the 1 stars and stuff like that. What I have seen of the 1 stars was that people refused to read it because of its racism and sexism and just how like disrespectful it is. In contrast to that controversy, yes, it is that way. There are bits of racism and sexism in there. Like only certain women can become samurai. Like certain women are courtesans. Certain women are only wives, and that's it. Like there's no love in between, like a husband and a wife. Those kinds of things. It is a bit tough at some points, but what you gotta understand is that this was the 1600s. Things were a lot different back then. The way that this is written, you can definitely tell that it is historically accurate. Not just like with that, even with like the whole setting of Japan, everything that Japan dealt with at the time in the 1600s. So despite controversy, that's kind of how it was. And with that, I do believe that the author done his research very well, and that is the main reason why I actually enjoyed this story. I like when the author actually puts in the effort to actually embed a lot of the information into it, and despite it being too long, it ended up being a really good story. So my verdict for this, not just because I love samurai things, my verdict is this is a must read. I definitely advise a lot of people to read this. If it's not your thing, then cool. But if you are a samurai fan like I am, definitely. I can tell you right now, every time I started reading this, it made me think of like the old samurai films that I have seen. It's basically like Last Samurai, but it's set at a different time and whatnot. But it just made me want to watch The Last Samurai again. It made me want to watch Lady Snowblood and the second one. It made me want to watch Kill Bill, or even though Kill Bill I watch constantly. It made me want to watch 13 Assassins, the original one, the real one, not the remake. And it's really something that it deserves its place in the world. It 100% it deserves its place. The fact that I got to pick this up and actually got the opportunity to read this, it was probably one of the greatest moments I've ever experienced. And I can tell you right now, it was definitely worth the month and 5 days. Definitely worth that time reading it. So there you go, guys. I don't think I made this video short enough. I hope it's long enough or short enough or to your liking. So thank you guys for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I will see you guys in the next one.